So we're going through the attributes of the Dharma, and we've arrived, I believe, at the sixth, which the title, which I'm going to call the title of my talk, "Come and See." Um, so the sixth one is often translated, or one translation is "The Dharma is inviting," literally meaning "come and see," while encouraging investigation. The Pali word is Ehipassiko. I won't try to pronounce that a second time in this talk. So come and see for yourself. Don't simply believe what you're told. Instead, be curious. I've been thinking about what it means to be invited in this way. So if you or I were to receive an invitation to the Dharma that was particularly well suited, an invitation that met you where you were at, what might it say? As I ponder this question for myself, I realized that the invitation would have been somewhat different at different times in my life, but there really has been a through line of that it would say something about clarity, because clarity settles me down. It helps me find my bearings. It helps me find life directions for the various things that are going on in my life. So maybe the invitation would read something like this. Life is complex and often challenging. Settle down, listen in, and discover the guiding voice of clarity. So I think, as some of you know, I've been doing a somewhat quirky project lately, and I'm back on the fast track around this. I'm reading and auto-dictating my old journals. I'm doing this because I'm going to give my journals away, and now there's a deadline. The organization I'm giving it to, the University of Oregon, the person who's the archivist, is retiring mid-September, so I've got to get as much done as I can. But it's kind of turned into this kind of unexpected life review, which I suppose is developmentally appropriate for me. So as I keep reading these journals, I'm struck by both how different and how similar I feel to back then. Um, so when I say back then, I'm 31 years old in my auto dictating. I wrote a lot in my 20s. I hope I don't write quite as much in my 30s because that took me a long time. But at any rate, but back then, my journals, it's so clear they were my confidant, they were my best friend. It's where I sorted out my life experience. And I'm just the journal I'm up to now is when I'm 31 years old, and I didn't remember this at all, but I called it my meditation journal. Um, and I dedicated a whole book to it. Was different what I put in the book. Well, I haven't transcribed it yet. I better not speak about it too much, but I thought that was interesting. But as I'm reading about my meditation, and I realized that I had a lot of transcendent ideas. I wanted, and maybe even I needed, to really get to transcend, to get beyond, to get above the craziness of my 20-something life. And, I was looking for something that was beyond, that was higher than my immediate experience, something that would and could take me out of the confusion and intensity of my life. And there was lots of, in this meditation journal and throughout, there's lots of systems of understanding, lots of astrology, lots of I Ching. And I use this to develop a broader perspective, some overview. But now, decades later, I use meditation differently, I think, to know more about my embodied life as it is. I'm not so interested in getting beyond my experience and much more interested in understanding the experience I'm actually having. So, back to those words, come and see. So, that phrase seems very connected to our practice of reflection. And then it speaks about investigation too, right in that translation, while encouraging investigation. And so I was thinking, like, okay, what is the difference then between reflection and investigation? And then I thought, oh, they sort of seem like twins. I'm not sure if they're, identical twins or fraternal sororal twins, but they're closely related, maybe with a little different qualities. And, you know, just at first thought, when I tried to distinguish them, maybe reflection is a little more receptive. We allow something to emerge. We stay with experience. We stay with a question, a thought, and we see what becomes apparent. As I say that, I think, I'm glad we named our practice um, reflective meditation because we do lean more into the receptive end of things. And then if I was to make this discernment, investigation seems a little more active. We become more curious, we ask questions, we turn something over, examine it from different angles. But what they both involve is a willingness not to settle too quickly for the first answer. So, back to when I first began Buddhist meditation, I didn't think that investigation of the Dharma was something that was intended, for me. I thought that my job was to listen to the wise words of my teachers and try to integrate them into my life. And maybe that was developmentally appropriate. Maybe that is where a path naturally begins. We listen, we learn, we take in from those who have traveled the path before us. Um, and maybe I needed to do this both developmentally in terms of my chronological age at the time, and developmentally in terms of where I was in learning Buddhism. But it's curious. I don't think I even heard the phrase investigation of the Dharma back then. It wasn't a teaching that was emphasized in my earlier experiences. But now I find that investigation really inviting. I feel uplifted when I have a new understanding. It's really pleasurable about seeing something that I hadn't seen before, making a connection, or discovering that something I thought I understood has another layer to it. So it keeps me coming back for more. It's very inviting. Um, and it is on the it is one of the factors of awakening. Investigation of the Dharma is one of the factors of awakening. That's intriguing because it suggests that awakening isn't about simply becoming calm or concentrated or peaceful, which many people think that's the case. But there's also about looking closely, about wanting to understand, about being willing to investigate our experience and the teachings. Now, investigation probably requires some basic familiarity with the Dharma. We're investigating our own experience, but as we have some familiarity with the Dharma, we can integrate the two. And reflective meditation is very firmly planted in this quality of investigation. Um, we are interested in what happens when we turn towards our experience with curiosity. Back to those words, come and see, not come and believe this, as is true in many religions and spiritual paths, not come and adopt these teachings because someone wiser than you has figured it out, but come and see what you discover. So maybe the invitation I needed when I was 20 something is somewhat different from the invitation I need now. Back then, I needed an invitation to transcend. Now I need an invitation to inhabit. At one point, I might have needed an escape from the complexity of life, but now I want to understand the complexity more deeply. So I end with this prompt. If the Dharma were writing an invitation specifically to you right now, what might it say? What might make you want to come closer to the Dharma? So I end there, and we will meditate for our usual 30 minutes.